2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting Kaiju Combat episode on Inside Movies Galore. And tonight we have an exciting film to share with you that has happened within the last couple of years.
Yeah, we usually don't do movies this current.
So, why don't you, Dustin, tell us what kind of
So we're here tonight to talk about the 2019 Godzilla King of the Monsters, which is a film by Michael Dougherty, who did Trick or Treat and Krampus, so well-known horror director. And it's pretty much everything you could ever want in a Godzilla movie. And what you feel defines Godzilla movies that doesn't involve aliens or robots.
And let's put it out there that it is a direct sequel to the 2014.
It is, yes.
So.
Shall remain uncovered on this channel.
At least for now.
5 years later.
Yeah, Godzilla 2014 is good, but this is so much better on every level that
especially the lighting.
Oh god,
especially the lighting.
Lighting was crap
for
2014 one.
Well, I mean, the 2014 one was directed by Gareth Edwards, so what can you do?
But in any case, so go ahead. Let us give us a lowdown of what this film is about and your first impressions.
Well, the most basic description of the plot is Godzilla has to fight King Ghidorah for dominance of Earth. Other stuff happens too, but that's what we're here for.
All right. What about your?
And my first impression was, so I was really excited to see this, and I got to see it. I went to see it in theaters. I think a couple of weeks after it came out, like the first opportunity we had to go see it, and I was pretty pleased with it. Like, you could tell that Michael Dougherty was a huge Godzilla fan because this had a lot of stuff that appeals to Godzilla fans in it. There were also a lot of references. And plus, there was some stuff with from his horror background. Like, did anybody notice that the Monarch base that Ghidorah is being held at? I think it's pronounced Ghidorah, but I've always pronounced it Ghidorah ever since I was like 6, so I can't help myself.
I think it's a tomato kind of thing because I've heard it pronounced both ways.
Same here.
Well, at any whoa, what's going on?
I know Xie Zhang said Ghidorah, and I would trust her.
Yeah, it's definitely Ghidorah, but I've always called him King Ghidorah, and there's like MF Doom did a rap album. I think he pronounced it that way too, and he was going by King Ghidorah.
Okay.
So it's not uncommon for us here in the States to say it Ghidorah.
Well, I feel a little bit better now.
Yeah, I mean,
but,
MF Doom's pretty rad, dude. So if you released a whole album mispronouncing it, I'm good with it.
a lot of the English dubs that I remembered watching as a kid, I heard them say Ghidorah, but then I guess maybe later on they said Ghidorah. But it's a either or thing.
In some of the video games, they say King Ghidorah, like that.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, the Easter egg I was referring to was, did anybody notice that the base where Ghidorah is being held is Outpost 32?
I saw them talk about that in the commentary, that he said since the base for the thing had burned down, it had to be the next number in the sequence. Yeah.
So we got a secret thing reference in there, which I enjoyed.
I've seen the thing, but I wouldn't have remembered that.
Well, apparently, we have a very interesting cast here.
Apparently.
Because we have the lady who played in Bates Motel as Vera
Farmiga.
Yeah, and she
Millie
played a
Bobby
phenomenal
Brown.
role in that series, and played the slightly mad mother in there. So, to me, it's not a far stretch to have her in this film as the almost protagonist of the film. So,
Yeah.
so
It's easy. It's easy to forget the human cast in Godzilla movies.
Not this one.
not
No.
this one.
Well, the one I remember the most in this one is Millie Bobby Brown, probably just because it's like, oh, 11 is in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She had hair.
And she did really good.
Well,
I mean, but you've got carryovers from the last Godzilla. You've got the great David Strathairn, the great Sally Hawkins, the living legend Ken Watanabe, and then added to this one, you've got
Charles
Kyle
Dance.
Chandler, Charles Dance, who's flipping phenomenal, and then of course the glorious goddess of beauty and martial arts, Yi Zhang. Twice she plays two roles.
Double your pleasure, double your fun, or however that goes.
Did
And she
anybody catch that was a reference to the Mothra twins?
Yep. Well, I mean that they made that
a little
pretty.
bit.
Well, they made that pretty clear, and I mean that was one of my favorite things about the movie. Actually, was that they paid really good homage to the mythological origins of Mothra, while still rooting it in its overall scientific context, which was nice because Mothra was always, out of all the Godzilla monsters in that canon, Mothra was always a guardian of Earth. Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she was always a good guy, which is interesting because Godzilla's kind of flip flop back and forth. To use a wrestling term, he's done a face change. He's been a baby face or a heel, but she was always a good guy.
He's probably just every face of Undertaker that you could probably imagine.
Well, he's gonna send you right to the Undertaker because he's Godzilla. So.
But we have Millie Bobby Brown, who played
Yeah.
Madison Russell, who played the little girl in Stranger Things.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Did
And we should
finish
probably
first impressions?
no, we didn't even get
Yeah,
into
did we
them
cover
actually.
it?
No, we're already lost. Awesome.
So I guess I'll start with mine.
Yeah, go ahead.
I did not get to see this in theaters. I ended up getting it maybe 2 weeks after it came out on Blu-ray, DVD, whatever, and I was fairly impressed with this film and where it went and how much it somehow followed the original Godzilla Gojira thing. I mean, you've got Ishiro. What is his name again? I know I have trouble saying it. Ishiro Serizawa, which in the original one, since we just recently watched those movies or whatnot, he was a scientist originally that didn't want his thing that he had
Oxygen destroyer,
which it's called that here, that they use later on, but
Watch out.
but there are two different devices in here, in this particular film. The first is the Orca, and then the second is the Oxygen Destroyer, which is used by the helicopter people later on. So,
the military uses the Oxygen Destroyer to try to kill Godzilla. I think what you're trying to say, Dave, is there's a cool symmetry to this in that in the original Godzilla, Dr. Serizawa sacrifices himself to destroy Godzilla with the Oxygen Destroyer, and in this Godzilla, Dr. Serizawa sacrifices himself, spoilers, to save Godzilla from the Oxygen Destroyer.
Well, yeah, that was really cool and sad and all that all at once. But we were talking about Easter eggs. That, of course, is some of the more obvious Easter eggs here. But I did like that Watanabe's character was Serizawa. I was like, that's a nice nod there. I thought that was good,
We
especially
also
when they
have
turned it on its head.
we also have Bradley Whitford, who played on The
Oh
West Wing.
yeah,
Who played the white-haired Dr. Rick Stanton. He kind of plays a bit of a nerd here, where I actually kind of like his character. You know, he's pressed. He's kind of original with some of his dialogue and stuff. You know,
Yeah,
You could,
well,
you could tell a lot of his dialogue was kind of for the kids, though. It was
Right.
like kid level exposition. It's like that lizard is juiced. It's like,
yeah, a little bit, but also if you ever watched The West Wing, which great show,
Right.
and his character in there actually was probably my favorite. Well, he tended to have really snappy dialogue, and he
Right.
tended to. He was sort of he was a prick, but he kind of knew he was, and he also knew that he also knew that he was
Right.
really damn good at what he did.
And
'Cause
of
he was the deputy chief of staff, if I recall. But his dialogue in that show was, perhaps not quite as, I guess you could call it juvenile, but like if you were to transplant his character from The West Wing in there, he might be more inclined to say that kind of thing than not, which he kind of was that way in the Meg as well,
And-
just the year before.
And also, I want to mention, this is a nice sort of 6 degrees of separation kind of connection here with Cloverfield, because we talked a little bit about Drew Goddard writing the screenplay, and of course, Whitford starred in The Cabin in the Woods as one of the technicians running the whole show, which was kind of a fun little role too.
Yeah.
Actually,
I
while
thought
you're
he
saying
looked
something-
familiar, but I
Yeah.
had no idea he was in those other he was in the Meg
Yeah.
and Cabin in the Woods. I've
Oh,
never
yeah.
seen West Wing, and actually
you gotta.
there's actually a really strong argument you can make that the West Wing destroyed American politics and put us in the situation we're in. But that would take 3 hours, and it would break your
Well,
soul.
you need to
Yeah.
you need to see the show first before you can say that. But I loved that show when it was. I watched it. Well, my family and I, we caught up to it, and then we were watching it live, like as it was kind of winding down. But that was a fantastic show, amazing writing. Really
Send you the
gets.
link.
Yeah, please do, because
it
it really
followed current events so much. I mean,
it did, but it stood up, I think, because it was very much within its own universe. But
Right.
I think it's one of those shows that, like, if you really like the study of politics in general, then it's gonna whet your appetite in a big way. Bradley Whitford, but he really was a shining star of that show, and I'm just glad that he's carried over into, even if it is something like. No, wait. He wasn't in the Meg. Sorry, I was thinking of Rainn Wilson. Sorry, but yeah.
Dane, why don't you tell us your first experience
Right.
with this movie?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
West Wing, Dustin responds violently to
The show would have been a lot better with Godzilla in it. That's all I'm gonna say.
Hell yeah.
Godzilla would have been a good
I'll
president.
say this: if President Bartlett were in office when Godzilla went down, then it might have turned out a lot differently. Let me tell you what.
He'd
But,
have thrown a party, and that would have been it.
maybe, but
He'd have thrown a party and patted himself on the back.
maybe. Well, again, see the show before you say anything. But I think with this film, I saw it in the theater. It was one of the few. It was one of the last films I remembered seeing physically in a theater back when we were allowed to do that. And it was definitely worthy of the theatrical experience, just because obviously it's a huge scale kind of thing. I saw the first of the new American Godzillas in the theaters as well. This did.
Oh, you okay there?
Well, let's go to someone else while we're waiting. Forrest, why don't you tell us what your first opinion of the movie was?
Okay,
Did-
so first time I saw it opening weekend when it came out. At the time, when I first saw it, I wasn't that into it. But although on the second time I actually liked because I just rewatched it yesterday, and I liked it more the second time around. I definitely think all the monster fights are great. The humans part of the story, I could give. That's the part I could give two shits about. Although
That's not that bad.
although I did although I'll admit I kind of took a sick pleasure in watching Fenway Park getting destroyed. I'm a Yankee fan. I hate the Red Sox, so I got a kick out of that scene.
Sorry about the mic trouble there. I guess that my mic got disconnected or something.
Mm.
I have it plugged into like a 4-way USB splitter, and I don't know, something must have happened there. But
Go ahead and go back to your.
yeah, so I saw this film in the theater. I saw the first of the American Godzilla, this new continuity, the MonsterVerse. Saw that in the theater, and this one did correct a lot of the things that I disliked about the first one, even though I liked that film overall. This did correct a lot of that stuff where you got to see some more familiar monsters back. You saw more of the Godzilla mythology coming back in. Good homages to things. I liked the human characters here more than the first one. I think the cast was a little bit better rounded, and I think
Oh,
You're
here we
good.
go again.
Again?
Mo, why don't you go ahead and share your thoughts on the film?
Were we not
Alrighty.
finished with Forest yet, or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's go back to
Yeah.
Forest, because we got to see the destruction of Fenway Park. That was about it.
Yeah. Are you there? Is your audio working?
well, it is now. It got disconnected there, but well, basically, just to wrap it up, yeah,
can't hear-
this.
I can't
This-
hear Forest. I see his mouth moving.
Oh, I'm not saying anything.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Well, just wrap it up quickly. This corrected a lot of the things that I didn't like about the first of the American ones. It gave me more of what I wanted from a Godzilla film, and yeah.
Okay. Going over to Mo, why don't you tell us a little bit about your first experience with Godzilla King of the Monsters?
I definitely slept on this movie. Probably, I mean, I didn't hate the 2014 one. I actually quite enjoy it, but it didn't have me jazzed to like see the next one. I heard it was better, but that's, didn't seem hard to achieve. So I wasn't rushing out to see it or anything. I just watched it the first time the other day and watched it 1.5 times since. So almost 3 watches of it. That's, that's rare that I do that with a movie. For my money, this is the first time in the States we've ever made a Godzilla movie that is truly 100% worthy of like the Japanese legacy of the shit. It felt like a proper Godzilla movie, not like they were holding our hand and introducing us to him as if we'd never heard of the shit before, which is ridiculous. I don't know why they felt the need to do that again. This should have been 2014 Godzilla.
Yeah. Well,
but-
and yet this film did not do all that well critically or commercially. So what the fuck?
It had good
Yeah,
word of,
indeed.
It had good word of mouth though.
Yeah,
It did,
for
and
sure.
and I read a lot of articles that were saying, don't believe the whole like, oh, it's bombing and all that. Which I mean, I don't think it bombed per se, but it wasn't like, basically we're in this
Wasn't
fault.
like what they wanted.
Well, we're in this false dichotomy now where it's either $1 billion or nothing. There's no such thing as word of mouth anymore in the studio's minds, and it's like, well, no, the fans like us,
Well, there
we
should be,
liked it.
because that's like,
It should be.
There should be,
That's
and
the whole
I
reason
think
that I was
well, and I think
stoked to
there
check it
still
out.
is. I think there still is, but it's just more so that the studios, they only want to get to that sacred $1 billion mark. But
Right.
I
Especially
mean,
on
Godzilla in its truest form is going to be a niche thing anyway.
The
Go ahead, Jake, with your
Probably
first impressions.
doing a good job of being. Oh shit!
what happened? Well, as far as my first impression, I guess you kind of have to look at these in the context of like the universe they're trying to create. And honestly, the first one by a long margin that I saw in this one was Kong Skull Island, which I did quite enjoy. I finally got around to 2014 Godzilla about 3 nights ago, and then King of the Monsters the next night. And I kind of got another rewatch because I tried watching the commentary track today, but I didn't have enough time because it's kind of a long movie. So I watched about 2/3 of the commentary track, which also helped me catch one of the critical points I nodded off in the first viewing, uh, which the sudden death of a major character. But we were talking about that a little bit in our previous discussion of how some franchises will make the characters' deaths count. And I do feel like this one really does to a degree. A lot of shows don't. But even then, that character in particular, it was very sudden and shocking. And the filmmakers almost did it. It's kind of like that moment in Puella where Mommy gets it, and you find out,
Yeah.
whoa, this
This
show
isn't your
means
typical
business.
magical girl.
It's almost the same thing too. This creature comes down and eats Sally Hawkins' character just out of nowhere. It's like, yeah, it's like I kind of nodded off at that part because I was tired, and then I was like, where'd Sally Hawkins go?
Oh my god.
And then, so yeah, that was interesting going back and revisiting that. But my first impression is that the 2014 one was good, but they really needed better lighting.
Yeah.
This one was great in a lot of ways. It did fix the lighting. It was slightly better in terms of pacing, plotting, general most things. Ken Watanabe got to do a little bit more and went from being just his usual awesome self to actually being an awesome character. You can never go wrong with Ziyi Zhang. The absence of Bryan Cranston is keenly felt, but other than that, it is, I think, an improvement. And if these three are the start of, if they keep going and Godzilla versus Kong is another step in this direction.
Oh, I'm excited about that movie.
It could be good. It could be a great franchise to get into.
It could be a good build up to
I may finally go see one of them in theaters.
I know King Kong has an
They're
axe.
open.
Yeah.
An axe?
Yeah, King Kong has like a stone axe.
Oh, okay.
That's odd, but well, then again, actually, my favorite of the MonsterVerse films thus far, my favorite was I think Kong Skull Island because it was. I was just pleased that it wasn't any of the other Kong interpretations that I'd seen before.
It was its own creature, yeah.
It really was, and if anything, it owed itself a lot more to Apocalypse Now than it did to any King Kong interpretation. I was like, well, that's really cool. Plus, the characters were really memorable. They were really likable. The actors that they got were really high caliber actors, and they got to play characters that you don't normally see them get to play, and also that Kong was explicitly bipedal and was much more of a, obviously he was huge already, he didn't have to be blown up to Godzilla size, and so he's much more of a classical kaiju than he ever was in the original film or in Peter Jackson's version.
And he's gonna be fully grown in Godzilla vs. Kong too, so he's gonna be the same size as Godzilla, which is the biggest Kong we've ever had.
He's going into it already with like a natural weakness in that he's got nipples, man. Godzilla gets those fucking claws around those big gorilla nips.
Yeah, purple. But I mean that's pretty unique because Kong in the original film and in Peter Jackson's version was very much a gorilla who was giant, so he was a little bit more humanoid in terms of his emotions and his ability to emote in Peter Jackson's film, but by and large, he was a gorilla who was giant, but he wasn't Godzilla size, and he wasn't fully bipedal or anything like that. More so in the original, but still, that'll be quite something. But he helps to fit in alongside the other kaiju that exist in this world that carry over from Godzilla's pantheon. And I just like that they call them the Titans, and they seem to give more of a mythos for the fact that they existed long before us, and that they're coming back to claim their place on the earth. And it's about us having to learn that we're not the dominant species anymore, and that kind of thing.
The only thing, we have Monarch acting like InGen, going in, playing God, trying to wake up these cranky ass monsters.
Not all of
Trying to
them.
keep them contained and not wake them
actually,
up.
let me
Yeah.
go ahead to my first experience with this, and that
Okay.
way we can wrap that up.
Did we ever finish getting Forrest's first impression?
Yeah,
I
we
was
did.
gonna say yeah. Okay, so I have noticed that I've only noticed this movie in the background. I'll admit, this is my first time viewing it. I didn't even realize it was the sequel to the 2014 version of Godzilla. To tell you the truth, I was actually surprised at it when I finally watched it, and I was kind of disappointed when I figured that out. But that was okay. I don't know. I just looked at that and I was like, oh, that's another one of those attempts to revive the Godzilla franchise. I didn't think much of it. So having it brought up like this actually did get me finally interested in checking out this film. So that was a good thing, and also got me. I was actually surprised at how cheap the original that the 2014 one was. So I was like, oh, I got to get in on this. So I did, and that ended up getting me into the actual thing. And I'm actually glad I saw the 2014. That was the most disappointing thing I had about it. Was I felt like there was a part of the story I was missing by hitting that one and not knowing that it was a sequel. And there's a part of me, and I'm glad I also have Kong Skull Island, because I'm going to check into that, because these are pretty good movies. I like this incarnation of Godzilla. And getting it brought up was a reason to finally get me interested enough to check them out. So thanks, Dustin, for putting them out there.
Well, hey, happy you enjoyed it. So, because this was probably my favorite movie of last year. Even more so than Crawl, which is surprising. And I'm just happy that people are starting to give it, the attention it deserves. What was that, Jake?
Well, you expressed surprise that we did 2019, but we've done 3 2019 that you submitted. Crawl and Shazam being two of the others.
We've done a lot of 2019 this year.
Plus the Velocipaster. That was the great.
Well,
I had to miss Velocipaster, so it doesn't count.
Velocipaster is the best. That's the best film ever made, right there.
That's like my new religion, dude.
It'll change your life.
It's like better than
of the claw.
It's better than Carnosaur.
They should have thrown his ass in this movie, dude. Velocipaster is always welcome.
Oh man, if the Velocipaster was in this movie, then I'm sorry, but Godzilla and Rodan and Mothra, they wouldn't stand a chance against his kung fu.
No.
Well, from what we can tell from different toys that have been images of toys that have been released, we might be getting Mecha Godzilla in versus Kong. So we could be going crazy with it,
which would be pretty cool. I mean, that typically what you find with the formula for these versus movies of these big, franchisable characters, generally the formula goes like so. The characters are introduced or reintroduced or whatever. Something goes down to where they don't like each other, and then they have to fight. and then inevitably there's some third party that comes along and it's like, hey, we need to team up to take this thing down, and that happens every time. But that'd be pretty sweet to see Mechagodzilla in all his glory.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I think actually one of the things that was cool about this version of Godzilla, and we talked a little bit of it in our King of the Monsters talk, is the difference between how they relate this Godzilla versus the past Godzillas. They look at them more of a natural phenomenon. A kind of a reset button for the planet. Before 2014, it was just like, these are Titans that used to be like there, and they're kind of outdated because the Earth's no longer irradiated. And then, of course, in the next movie, they kind of gain that sort of, these are the reset button for the planet. These are to help save the planet, with Ghidorah being a thought to be amongst these Titans, but then realizing, no, wait, he's an outsider.
Yeah.
He's
Invasive species.
He's going to destroy everything.
I gotta say something about Ghidorah's intro, because his intro is phenomenal. I mean, it is such a pleasure to see all these heads rise up. You see them snarling. I mean, and all of a sudden, when they bring their heads up and they do that first initial buck, and then all of a sudden, all that lightning just kind of.
Oh, it's perfect, dude. I got chills when that shit happened. It was flashback. I went through 3 generations of Godzilla movies.
This Ghidorah is a hell of a lot better than the puppeteer version that we see in the Japanese.
In the past, this Ghidorah is actually menacing. This Ghidorah was scary, which I did not think was possible.
One thing
Godzilla's ripping his head off and he throws it back.
One thing that they did that I think was probably an intentional nod. I think it was probably an intentional nod, in a sense, to the Velociraptors in Jurassic Park, was the fact that each head had a slightly different personality, and one of them was more curious and one of them was more aggressive, and where the aggressive one in particular is snarling and snapping at the other ones,
I love
at their own heads. And that kind of reminded me a little bit of the interplay between the Velociraptors, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting to see that. And I do know that there were some definite Spielberg references. They straight say in the commentary that Orca is a direct reference to Jaws. And I'm like, that was very cool that they did that. And, of course, the character in the original film being, or the previous film, Aaron Taylor Johnson's character being Brody, was also a Jaws reference. And it's I like that they put in some nice little Jaws references. That kind of works nicely, because that's one of the quintessential American monster films. So that's
yeah, it is a cool sort of that they're nodding to it while doing the main man of Japanese monsters.
Right.
Ghidorah gets bad rap. All right, I get it. Okay, in all previous generations, he pretty much just goes out there, looks awkward, wiggles the heads around. It's just a poor Japanese man in there holding a crossbar, trying to keep that big bastard up while dudes puppet him with wires.
I liked
and
him
shit.
in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. He actually was one of the stars in that one.
Oh my lord! Yes, I forgot about that.
Ghidorah, out of any Godzilla monster, is probably the most awkward on screen when you really start thinking about it and looking at it. But the concept of him always sold him, so I think that's worth noting with Ghidorah. And this definitely is the first time where I fully bought it as a living creature, not just a really awkward puppet.
Well, and that's what's so interesting about the Godzilla pantheon in terms of characters, is that if you want to think of it this way, you remember, again, another versus movie, Batman v Superman. You have Batman, Superman, you have a third party coming in, Wonder Woman, and then she's like, guys, we need to focus on the actually threatening thing, which is, Lex Luthor and eventually Doomsday. And it's you have a similar dynamic where you always had those main three of Godzilla, Rodan, and Mothra, and then King Ghidorah. So he's even got a title. And he was always the big bad guy.
Mhm.
And
King of the Cosmos.
Exactly. So I mean, it's just
Mhm.
interesting when you look at it through that paradigm and how those dynamics are still there.
Mhm.
And especially like in the original Japanese series when, the monsters get more personalities and they get more of an idea of how they relate to each other and, are they getting along? Are they not getting along?
Mhm.
That sort of thing.
Well, like
And
one of the fun moments in this one is when Ghidorah just straight makes Rodan his bitch.
yeah.
Just
Well,
straight
and
up.
but isn't that interesting that even those kinds of dynamics can take place even with those giant monsters, and
is.
you even have
That'd be
it
the king.
well, and you have it preserved here, even in this new take on these characters, like trying to put them through this partially naturalistic but partially mythological lens, which I think it's just neat to see that get translated over because it was always those three. It was always Godzilla and Rodan and Mothra.
Well,
As
and I
far
think
as like
Actually, my favorite Godzilla movie when I was little was Ghidra the Three-Headed Monster, which this
Good
is
one.
basically a remake of, which I think might have been why I enjoyed it so much because
yeah.
it's in that movie you have Godzilla, Rodan, and Mothra teaming up to defeat King Ghidorah.
Yeah.
Whereas
it was
in this,
unprecedented. They'd never done that type of shit in the series up to that point. I don't like. There was never one where Mothra and no,
Godzilla
maybe
worked together.
yeah. I don't think so because Ghidorah is even before Ibra, Horror of the Deep, and all that stuff where you see them work together again. And yeah, it's definitely the first one.
And it's just it's neat to see that these characters can have a single villain that they go up against.
Well, it's especially effective in this one because if you look at it like initially, it looks like the villain is the eco terrorist led by Charles Dance, and the dude looks like a villain. I mean, he just straight up sells it. No
Damn
question.
Lannisters.
But,
well, and Charles Dance has a
Also,
lot
right.
under his.
action hero.
Yeah.
Charles Dance has a lot under his belt. I mean, he was on Game of Thrones. I mean, but he was in particular in one of my favorite versions of the Phantom of the Opera. So,
Right.
Where he played the actual Phantom. So,
well, and Gosford Park, and he's been in just so many things over the years. And sometimes he has played just incredibly dark, sinister characters, and sometimes he plays pretty good ones. But he always has a commanding presence, and he absolutely sells the role of a kind of character that would make Poison Ivy proud, like a eco-terrorist who is fully committed to his role and doesn't really care whose toes he steps on. And then when you got that wonderful reveal, spoilers everyone, where you find out that Vera Farmiga is in league with him.
God.
And then but the whole thing is like, to be honest, Dance goes a little too far. But Farmiga, I actually found myself strongly empathizing with their position. And so to me, the true villain is Ghidorah. There's no question about it. But it's kind of fun how you have those different layers and these people that you want to. Oh, wait, are they the villain? They're doing villainous, horrible things. But it's like that. It's like that episode or comic in Invincible where the character vaporized Las Vegas as an eco terrorism, and I could not fault him for it.
Well,
and it was just it's a similar sort of feeling.
You bring up a good point because you kind of wonder who the villain is
Right.
because their cause is something that
Save the planet.
It's a bigger picture. You realize that humanity has destroyed the Earth with all of their taking and reaping what they want of the natural resources. So so waking these monsters and making them destroy the earth while they are battling each other is kind of like their whole whole credo, you know.
Well, that, and I mean it. Only 1 year later, what's happening right now is, we've spent so many decades and centuries just ravaging the earth, and then all of a sudden, nature strikes back with a virus. So.
Right.
If it's not a virus, then it's natural disasters. It's any number of things. I mean, even you saw that story not too long ago about the really ancient strains of viruses that had been frozen in the ice caps that were getting thawed out, and it's like, well, who knows? Who knows if we're ready for those? And if we could fight against those.
Hopefully, there's a kaiju up in there.
Yeah, more like on a literally microscopic scale, but equally destructive in a different way. But it's
Ghidorah himself up in that bitch.
Inamizawa syndrome in the ice
caps. Basically, the more that you fuck with nature, the more that nature's gonna strike back.
Yeah.
Yep. Look at the natural. I mean, I'll give you a good example of something there. I mean, in Virginia, I've had an issue right now. I'm sitting there like looking at the fact that my collection is kind of screwed. Well, my collection's okay, is necessarily I'm kind of screwed financially because of a flood happening, where we have actually had water come in at levels that haven't been the same in a month since 1945.
Right.
It's just you've got that level of just unprecedented weather. I mean, people, and it wasn't just me. I mean, we've got lots of people who are in areas where you're not even allowed to buy flood insurance that are getting floods, and of course, no insurance is covering because, oh well, you didn't need the flood insurance. Oh, you had a flood. Oh well.
In North Carolina, we had a pretty nasty earthquake that I felt in my room in my apartment complex, and it's like, North Carolina is much more known for hurricanes and and not even all that bad, but just kind of the remnants of them from other states, but at least where I am. But that and like extreme heat and bugs and pollen and stuff. But like the earthquakes, not so much. So it's like, these things, they're just. They're coming at you when you least expect it, and nature's always got some way to even the odds if we decide to mess with it too much.
Yeah, Brandon, what was it? Was it 3 or 4 years ago? 4 years ago that we had an earthquake, the measurable earthquake in the RVA.
We had one there.
Yeah,
and it was just
amazing
how much.
It was not a major thing. I didn't even notice it. But I happened to be outside next to Huguenot Road where the traffic disguised both vibrations and noise. But people who were in the building right behind me felt it and saw things shake around. And it was not a big one. It was not I think, Dane, you said 5.0. It was not that.
It was a little bit over 5. I can't remember the exact. I can look it up really fast.
Ours was more like, I think, like a 1 to a 2. It wasn't a big one, but still, Central Virginia is not known for earthquakes, so it was like a measurable one. It was kind of strange.
Well, when 5.1, that's what it was. But when it happened, my room, it was very loud. The room, I could feel it shaking, and I heard the noise. I kind of thought that and it was very brief. It didn't last very long, but maybe a few seconds. But at first, I was like, "Is maintenance like cleaning out, someone's like dryer ducts or something below me?"
It was 5.8.
Yeah. But it. Well, it said 5.1 on the one that I...
The one we had. The one
you had, yeah.
Yeah, it was centered in Louisa, and it was a 5.8. So here in Richmond, it was probably more like a 3 or a 4.
I see.
But it was, yeah.
Well, it hit like right where I am, which is like the one that I'm thinking of. That happened a few days ago, or August 9th. But Yeah, it was such that it really did shake things up. And I at first I thought it was like maintenance doing something in the apartment downstairs, and it just like got loud or it got backed up or something because you never know what happens. But nope, it was definitely an earthquake, and I saw all of Twitter and Facebook was lighting up with. Does everyone else feel that? Yes, they did. So bottom line is nature will fuck your plans right up if you decide to get a little too rambunctious.
Well, let's get back
Well,
to
yeah.
the let's get back to the human story part of this film. We haven't really touched on some of that.
Right.
So we have the Russells. Apparently, they've gone their separate ways in the very beginning of the film. They have a daughter, and she just so happens to be like around her mother or living with her mother while she's developing this project for Monarch.
Well, they start with the big set piece from the end of the first one, which is where seeing the first one really helps with context. Because there's that big battle between the two Mutos and Godzilla in San Francisco that kind of levels the city. And the Russells had a son who I guess went missing in the. I don't know if they said explicitly if they knew he died or he just went missing.
Oh, he's dead as hell.
Yeah. They consider him dead. I know that. Yes. Well, yeah, that's exactly how the authorities
Dead
told
as a
him. It's like,
doorknob.
he is dead as hell. Give it up, lady. And they, the father apparently started drinking, and but the other one stayed with Monarch, and so.
Well, and he's part of the one that has developed some of the technology behind the Orca, which is this device that seems to calm or speak or control whales. And it just so happens to work with these titans on a certain
level. Because they were using it to keep whales from the ocean. I mean, not from the ocean, from the coast.
No more ocean for you, whales.
Go back to outer space where you belong.
Well, they make a reference.
Thanks for all the fish.
What's his face? Cranston. Bryan Cranston makes a reference in the first film about speaking with a guy about echolocation and using echolocation with these creatures. And that's basically the principle they use, is using sonar, sonic, like acoustics to communicate with them. And they've apparently cracked the code of how to tweak it to each individual one or whatever, or at least Vera Farmiga's character did, kind of crack that code, whatever.
And then eventually kind of explain a little bit too how part of that, like the missing element of the overall like harmony that can talk to all of them or whatever is like the human element. That's what they combined with Godzilla's, and then I think that's how they get it going later. It's a neat idea, being able to like tap into the bioharmonics or whatever of different big creatures like that and be able to communicate with them.
You'd have to find a way to do that if you were to survive in that new world, so it makes total sense. Plus the fact that, Ji Zhang being a really great homage to and representation of the fairies that were always attached to Mothra, and were able to translate for her and for the other monsters. It's like, well,
I still want the twins.
I need the Mothra twins, man. It bums me out. Like, and I need the Mothra twins and that goddamn Mothra song, because shit is fire. Like every time.
It's like they
could always do that in the future.
Well, it's a good way to pay homage to that central idea while also introducing those concepts of echolocation, and she still provides a lot of that essential exposition that the fairies would have provided, so that role is still filled, which is really nice.
So
it's definitely.
I'm not. I may not have paid as much attention. Did they reference either of those two, like the wife or the husband or the child in the original 2014 Godzilla? I can't remember.
They did not.
I don't think so.
Okay, I was trying to think to myself, like, who are these people? Did they have any? It would have been cool, kind of, if they had referenced them there, because that would have been a. I actually think that would have added to some of the coolness of the movie itself, was just having that extra attachment. But I guess in a way it makes it so you can watch the movie without as much.
And they do still have a little bit of carryover.
Well, yeah. I mean, and given Ferris Bueller versus the Lizard, you could forgive him.
New title?
That's what I'm calling it.
May as well.
That sounds like a great movie. Can you imagine that? Save Ferris. Like, no, actually, we mean it this time. Save him. He's about to get eaten.
Actually, no. This could be a great late career move for Matthew Broderick. Do sort of almost a send up, sort of meta send up sort of thing of like where he's like Ferris Bueller several years later, and he's made a string of bad choices, and all he can do is appear in bad monster movies.
Well, that or you could. They probably couldn't call him the same thing just because of rights issues or whatever. But like, if you were to bring him back, or like a character of his sort, I mean, because like. They did that with what's his name from the Godzilla King of the Monsters, the U.S. edit. Raymond Burr. They were able to bring him back for Godzilla '85, and they just called him Mr. Martin because they didn't want him to think that it was Steve Martin, the actor. But it's like, hey, they did that, and that'd be kind of wild to see Matthew Broderick back in a Godzilla.
It would just be cool even if they did it like subtly, like just a scene in one of the next ones where it's like Matthew Broderick at a cafe or something, and he sees the news report in like a totally unrelated city, and he sees the news report of Godzilla come over the thing, and he's just like, nope, and then it shows him like get a plane ticket and fly to a totally different country or something.
I'm seeing a scene. I'm seeing a scene of. I'm getting a flash in my mind of John Hurt's cameo in Spaceballs. Oh no, not again.
But you could forgive him for not maybe throwing as much in to try to build a sequel right away with 2014 because of that. It's like, let's just make a Godzilla movie that's at least decent and then build on it after. And I can respect that.
I got it. Matthew Broderick is watching the news report in like a sushi place, and he gets this massive pile of sushi, and he goes, "That's a lot of fish."
That would be perfect.
My body wasn't ready for that. That burns.
Hey, thanks for all the fish.
Which, I mean, that's something we touched on with Gojira, the original, is that actually 1998 Godzilla got that right as far as his diet being primarily fish, which I don't think they touch on his diet all that much in American.
It's radiation in this one. He eats radiation, and that's why they stay so close to the Earth's core. They explain it in 2014 Godzilla.
Yeah.
They don't. They kind of assume you've watched that one for this one. And another reason why I wish y'all had told me earlier when you suggested it, that it was
I didn't know that you didn't know. I mean, I thought that was
I'm surprised you didn't know as well. I mean, come on, man.
From the special features, all they did was copy and paste the back spines on them for this one. Like
I said, Dave usually complains about that stuff, so I'm like. So I figured, that must be the first in that series.
and I guess in fairness,
I didn't complain as much because we had covered the first two, and I was cool if we kind of misjumbled it, even though technically we should do it in order.
I guess in fairness,
because our audience hasn't heard our.
That's savage, Dave. He's just basically like, we covered mine, so I don't give a shit.
It was slightly confusing because this one came out, or Godzilla 2014 came out just a hair ahead of Shin Godzilla. So they got like rebooted in both markets almost at the same time. So it's kind of weird that that happened. But
I am very much interested in Shin Godzilla just because I want to know what it was that the guy actually ditched the fourth Evangelion movie over. Just so I know where that.
Shin Godzilla was great. I saw that in the theater too, and that was, man, talk about a fan like a Godzilla fan's dream, you know.
Yeah, but we want that fourth Eva movie.
Yeah, because that series is that series. I'm afraid to start watching the movies because I don't want to be sitting there on a cliffhanger for multiple years waiting on the end.
I do want to say something about Rodan because I really like the design of Rodan here. Even though I loved the Rodan movie itself when it was put out and whatnot, but Rodan is definitely beasted up for this film. I mean, he's definitely a badass in his own way, even though he kind of gets killed. But
hey,
I do love how
by a moth, bro. Deal with it.
Actually, but he doesn't necessarily die because he's back at the end of that movie to battle Godzilla, and I do like how this movie ends. Unlike Cloverfield, you can tell this is sort of an apocalypse, especially by the time you get to Paradox, where the world is just kind of screwed and everybody's in their respective shelters. But in here, it's more like those surviving Titans, they're kind of guardians of the Earth. And so long as you don't fuck with the planet as much, you're good. Godzilla's like, even 2014 Godzilla, I'm realizing, wait, Godzilla's sitting there, he's not here to destroy the city. He's here to attack the invader, the parasite.
Yeah, he's trying to be the dominant predator, which I guess is what he was in his day. And that's what I really liked about the first of the new ones. The fact that they struck that great balance between Godzilla, the guardian of Earth, and Godzilla, the destroyer of Earth. In that respect, it was like, he's still an animal, and he still is driven by
children.
Yeah, well, but he's still an animal, and he's still driven by animal instinct to be that dominant predator. And to me that makes sense, and it's something that I was like, yeah, I can buy this. And it struck that right balance, because it's like they do need him to take down, well, the two creatures in the first one, and then take down King Ghidorah. And so it's more so about learning how to work with this creature that, it's like if you leave him alone, he'll leave you alone. And it's like that seems to be in real life when you're dealing with a lot of predatory species. More often than not, that seems to be a good winning strategy.
Well, and they worked in the whole element. Looks like the dude, that helped build the Orca was working with wolves or whatever when they have to come fish him out of Alaska or wherever the hell he's at, growing his stubble. And basically, like, they use some sort of animal behaviorist type stuff on Godzilla in the movie, like the whole opening the shutters so that he could see that they're not a threat. And they finally did Godzilla, like, working with humans in a way that isn't absolutely cheeseball. And I was so stoked on that. Like, it makes sense as an animal,
Right.
Oh, yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that Godzilla is... I really do think that the way that they did it was cool. I liked having the eco-terrorist concept in it. It really was a cool movie, so to speak.
Oh, for sure.
And remind me, they did call him Monster Zero at one point.
They did.
Yeah.
Gave me a little goosebumpies for sure. Like, yes. just keep them coming.
I will say, as dark as it is, and that was my biggest complaint of Godzilla 2014, was I had to turn the contrast up because I wanted to see what was going on. And this movie has a little bit of that issue, but not nearly as badly as 2014. And I will say that if you want to watch this one, I really feel like you lose out by not watching the 2014 Godzilla.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we kind of touched on monster design briefly there for a minute. Dustin, what did you think about Rodan? I guess we should probably run down the list.
Man.
I mean, this is a
So yeah, we're covering them in characters too, because each monster has its own like distinctive personality, and a lot of thought went into the biology of the monsters, and I really appreciated that. I'm sure Jake did too. So Rodan's blood is supposed to be like lava, so his wings are kind of a melted rock, like with just the edges like still burning. And every time Rodan flaps his wings, you can see that, there's like a trail of smoke. There's the cooling. Like, Rodan is so cool in this movie. Rodan used to be Rodan was my favorite one in the old series.
For sure. Like, if I had to pick, outside of Mothra of the main monsters, then I love Mothra, but Rodan kills. The sonic booms and all that.
Actually, Forrest, what was your thoughts on the monster design?
On monster design, I'd probably say, I gotta say, Ghidorah looked great. That was probably my favorite of my also Godzilla. I definitely think they improved. Actually, I think they made Godzilla himself look a lot better than he did in the 2014 movie.
He's a chonker. Love it. Stick with 2 C's, boy.
Actually,
is your camera still on?
And I like the thick.
Yes.
The thick Godzilla that they created for this particular version of Godzilla. He's kind of, I don't know. I feel like he's a cool kind of muscular Godzilla,
Yeah. Which I remember they made fun of that. Well, I think it was actually the Japanese made fun of American Godzilla being obese, and apparently the reasoning, like in the first one, I mean, and I think the reasoning behind it initially was that
he's built like a bear.
Well, they based that Godzilla explicitly off of a sumo wrestler, which to tie it into the Japanese origin. Which I remembered seeing the action figure of Godzilla. I think even before you saw a halfway decent, the like full body shot of him, and I remembered being like, man, his neck's really thick, and he he looks fat, But then I do think that they struck a better balance with him in the second one. I know for a fact that they were trying to, have it pay homage to the idea of a sumo wrestler who.
Oh, they have a full-on sumo moment when he clashes with Ghidorah, and there's like that shockwave. I think it's right before he says that lizard is juiced or whatever.
I think I hate that line the most, honestly.
It's the only moment in the movie where you're like, "Damn,"
He would fail his Olympic steroid screening.
Sure. So what do you think about Mothra and Rodan, Forrest?
Mothra and Rodan, Rodan looked good. Mothra, she didn't really stand out to me.
Blasphemy.
What the?
No.
This is kind of a weaponized Mothra. This Mothra is very pointy.
I actually lost track of it because, the wife of the person, she was like on the side of Monarch, supposedly up until the Mothra awakening, and then kind of switched sides throughout, or was she always on the side of?
She was always
I'm going
on
to
it.
kill everybody. I'm going to kill all of humanity.
Well,
they talk
She always
about
had that plan.
They talk about that in the commentary about that opening scene of the girl and her mother, and it's like this ordinary morning, but they were trying to hit that balance of how much are they saying and how much are they not saying, and how much is clear to the audience of how much are they not saying. And if you look at it that way, it's really intriguing because you can tell that they're both holding back in that conversation. So it's like, yeah.
Is it me, or is it like the husband character Does he not remind you of the character from the Godzilla 2014, the guy who was kind of just obsessed over the loss of his family? To me, he kind of had that feeling like that's the character, except if the character lived.
Oh, are you talking about Bryan Cranston's character?
Not so much.
I mean, I could see if you weren't paying attention to the movies, and I could see you assuming like, oh, is this guy supposed to be Bryan Cranston? Like, maybe a little bit. I could see that.
I felt like their motivations were different in a sense, and they went about it very differently. I think because
Was that Ron Livingston?
No, that was Kyle Chandler.
Kyle Chandler. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I remembered that they look kind of similar, and I get them mixed up.
They do look a little bit alike.
Yeah, but I agree. I think his character was kind of his own animal. Not to be too punerific, but I think he was his own animal.
You know, one character in the cast I don't think we've mentioned is Ice Cube Jr. And he actually had one of the great moments, I think, in the film where like they talk about Mothra as the queen of them, and they've been referring to Godzilla as sort of a king, and so he has this weird. He thinks what some people were thinking, and he has this what. I thought that was fun.
There were a lot of. I think one thing that this film really suffers from is sometimes the dialogue is pretty childish. Let's just say, and that was kind of one of the moments that stuck out to me, where it's kind of like, "Oh, come on, man!" Like,
but also you're not
saying that for years now. Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
or at least like that part where
at the same time you're not exactly going to like any kaiju film expecting Shakespeare or anything like that. It's
no, but at the same time,
some of it was maybe unneeded, like the part where I think it's like Rodan
he's got that
coming.
lizard juiced. I mean, come on.
But it could also be worse though. You could have like Son of Godzilla, where it's like explicitly for the kids.
Dane, now you've put it out there, and one of these, like sometimes we're going to see either Hamlet or Romeo and Juliet or Macbeth. Macbeth would be a good one.
Yeah,
take the play and build a kaiju film with that play.
Oh yes,
carrying that would rock.
Bring it on.
So
no, there's some of it that's like a little on the nose.
They need to do King Lear, where Lear is Godzilla.
Yeah,
there we go.
The Merchant of Venice.
Just do them all.
We
that
couldn't
could be
do
its own monsterverse.
We couldn't do King Kong versus Godzilla as a Romeo and Juliet theme.
No. See now.
I got it. So I got it. So you have shipwrecked people. They crash land on Monster Island, and you do the Tempest with someone able to control the monsters. So hey, you got it. That's easy. Boom.
We should. If we ever do like, let's say when we finally get Godzilla versus King Kong, if that ever comes up, we do need to do the original as the pre-show.
Yeah.
Because the original battle was epic. I mean, I remember when I was working with when I was in high school and we were doing a Mystery Science Theater ripoff that we did that movie because it was just such a fun, cheesy, like cheese-tastic movie.
Oh man, when they're bringing Kong in with those balloons or what? Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
I could die with that being the last image in my head and be happy for sure.
They should have like a little homage to that where like maybe let's say that King Kong is emerging onto the scene, and let's say it's like at a carnival or something, or some place where there would be balloons, and maybe you see like 2 or 3 like kind of attach themselves to his fur for like a few seconds before floating away. It's like that would be kind of a neat homage there, just like something very simple like that.
That's super cool.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's the wrong brother. Oh. I was looking at the cast in Godzilla vs. Kong, and Alexander Skarsgård is in there. But it's like when you're talking about balloons, it's the wrong.
Wrong for
The wrong one. The wrong one.
That would be cool.
We're out
Godzilla
there.
versus Pennywise. I think Pennywise would just get crushed, and that would be it. Which, hey, if we do combat, we should talk about Bambi versus Godzilla.
He could go into his
down.
giant bug form if he was going to do that, you know.
That too.
I mean,
I would have brought that bug creature from Men in Black in to fight Godzilla or something like that. That would be awesome.
Cockroach monster versus Godzilla.
Yeah.
I would be rooting for that one to be squashed down.
Well, I mean, Megalon was a cockroach, so that did already happen.
Oh, that was the cheesiest Godzilla I've ever seen, especially that part where he's
With
actually
Jet Jaguar.
on
I
the
love
whole like
Jet
thing where he's doing
Jaguar.
that kick on his tail as he just
Yeah.
Oh, the flying double kick.
How about the swordfish?
I don't
one?
speak of that.
one
Well, Godzilla versus Megalon is the one that I remember watching the most often when I was a kid. I think because it gave off such a strong Power Rangers vibe, which obviously it's because it helped to create the foundation on which Power Rangers would eventually emerge. But it's like I loved Jet Jaguar. I loved the Jet Jaguar song. I love the tail support flying kick, which they do it twice. And I love the when Godzilla appears. And it's like, I don't know, in my head I'm like, yeah, that's the music when Godzilla appears. It's just this really bizarre, brassy, like I don't know,
we all have known that Godzilla was a cool cat from the beginning.
Thank
Well, the
God
music
they didn't
and
pay homage to that shit in this.
well, the music in this was done by Bear McCreary, and it was pretty epic. It incorporated a lot of the classic themes, and it did a really great job of using that, especially the scene where when Godzilla is revived by the nuclear warhead, like, and the use of the original Godzilla theme, like,
which was already pretty epic.
I don't think that's ever been more. I don't think that music's ever been more exciting, like, with a scene that's been set to.
Well, Bear McCreary as a composer is criminally underrated. But I think I think he's getting more of a presence now than he did, at least initially. But like he's getting up there in visibility as he should, because he's well worth it. I mean, even if it's like something like his score for Angry Video Game Nerd the movie, like a lot of people cited that as one of the best parts of the film, and I would agree.
And there we have a Cloverfield reference.
He did the score for Victor Crowley too, the Adam Green movie. I didn't know that.
He also did the score for 10 Cloverfield Lane.
And the Child's Play remake. Like, he did an amazing job on the Child's Play remake music.
Well, and in the behind the scenes of AVGN the movie, he seems like a pretty cool person and someone that really knows his stuff when it comes to not just music composition, but also just how to make it work in the context of story. Because like what he did with that film was all through trying to emulate real video games music sounds, so like NES, SNES, Genesis, and then integrating the existing AVGN theme when the character arc goes in a certain direction. So it's like it's good that he knows story as well as how to best integrate it into musical form.
You should do a retro gaming theme for like this movie. That'd be pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
So what do you guys think about the battle? I mean, this is Kaiju Combat, which is probably
So this movie has several battles. So we get Godzilla versus Ghidorah round 1. We get Rodan versus Ghidorah. We get Godzilla versus Ghidorah round 2 and 3. And we also get Rodan versus Mothra. We very briefly get Mothra and Godzilla versus... Well, Mothra helps Godzilla out during round 3.
It's an assist, yeah. It's like a well-received pass on the touchdown kind of assist.
Yeah, before that reveal that Ghidra brought Rodan with him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like like a tag team match in wrestling.
That
It really
initial
was.
scrap with them was friggin' great. You know, I
was.
mean, like that whole scene, everything about
how
like
he,
the
like-
human element in it too was cool.
I like how he's like ripping the guy's head off. If he had actually been allowed to continue, you know that Godzilla would have just like wasted him right then and there. But they had to decide to use that oxygen destroyer, which was the most useless oxygen destroyer of all time.
Well, it destroyed lots of stuff.
Yeah, and Ghidra comes
It
from a
killed a
place
lot of
without
ocean
oxygen.
life, but
It helped him regenerate his head.
Right. And then, of course, like I said, the follow-up to that, you basically, or is this shortly after, I guess. But like I said, you do have that part where Rodan goes up against him and is totally owned.
Yeah. And like that's where we get a little bit of that potty humor or whatever, where beforehand he's like, the only reason that he'd be coming here is for food, for a fight, or and he doesn't say the other F, but you know what he's talking
they do
about.
The other F in the first movie.
And my kid is like old enough to get those jokes now, so I'm sitting there the whole time watching that scene, and she's asking me if they're gonna make a baby, and it's like, I don't think so. You know?
I thought the other F was gonna be. I thought the third F was gonna be flabbergasted.
Actually, though, they were talking about how they were talking about how Godzilla and Mothra would actually like work it out like together.
Well, it's like I said, you have that moment where they're kind of like, huh?
What kind of monstrosity would result from that unholy union? Can you imagine?
The one I see with any protuberance that could be used for that is Mothra, and that's going to be a strange day for Godzilla if they're going to do that.
Would he shit out the babies?
Well, getting back
it's different in the MonsterVerse.
Okay, so we've lost the kid-safe territory.
It's different with a kite.
We always lose that whenever most of
I don't know. I really like the scrap between Mothra and. Well, go. Let's do it.
So, like, the first
talking about God.
I liked the animal moment they added for Ghidra, where like Ghidra can sense Godzilla's coming, so like the heads are all looking around, and like he backs up and like puffs himself up to make himself look as large as possible to like his full height.
And you do have that one scene. Was it then or the later rematch where you see the two of them approaching each other from either side of the screen? And that was a pretty great shot. That was like, you see, Ghidorah, like you said, puffed up completely, like looking 3 times bigger than Godzilla, but it's still, yeah.
A regular puff daddy, you might say.
Gross.
Unfortunate callback to the other Godzilla, yes.
That's why I said gross. But no, like Godzilla's kind of throwing some wrestling moves, like a lot of grapples.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't see Godzilla just like punch Ghidorah. Godzilla's like choking, and throwing him around a lot.
Well, that makes
sense. On the ground.
Well, and it makes sense though because, in real life, when you see animals of relatively comparable size fighting each other, what do? Well, they try to bite, they try to swipe with their claws if they have any, or they try to choke out, their like let's say it's like chimpanzees fighting or whatever. Well, they're gonna probably try to choke each other out, or they'll bite, or maybe they'll do a little bit of hitting, but it's not gonna be like you're not gonna see a chimp boxing match or anything. Now kangaroos, on the other hand, that's like a kickboxing match right there.
Yeah, and I thought it was really great, like how they kept that kind of realistic animal fighting style for Godzilla.
Yeah, and it makes sense again because they're they're animals, and they're trying to reinforce that fact. But yeah, and generally, yeah, you do see some form of that with animals in real life. Like you mentioned a bear before, and there's a reason why they call the move that humans do the bear hug. Because that's what bears will do in real life.
Godzilla is the giant Russian bear.
Yeah, there you go.
Pretty much, yeah.
There's a movie for you, Godzilla with a Russian accent, pregnant with Mothra's babies.
Okay, and then we have so our next battle was the Rodan versus Ghidra battle, which it was kind of hard to figure out, like, what was Rodan's strategy? Just like rake at Ghidra with his claws? Because Rodan can't really do a whole lot.
Was there a strategy?
Oh, I mean, the other monsters are kind of like those beta monsters. I mean, they are awesome in their own right, but if you compare them to like Godzilla or Ghidorah, they're just like nothing.
Mid-boss.
Exactly.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, he's
like
basically
they don't have beam weapons.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the Ghidorah and Rodan clash there. Sorry, I was getting a beverage. Because just that whole element too with him, like they think that's a hurricane, and then it turns out to be Ghidorah.
Right.
That's just so epic.
Actually, you know what would be cool is like when I saw that giant airplane, I thought to myself, like the Avengers. So like just have. Of course, I don't want Disney to own any more properties than they already do, but the Avengers versus Godzilla. I mean, that
That'd
right
be
there
awesome.
would be...
I have actually seen
that was
I've
actually one of my
actually-
favorite. That was one of my favorite quick moments
Mm-hmm.
in this movie when when the giant flying fortress for Monarch is kind of approaching Rodan's volcano. There's sort of a close up on Rodan's face, and he kind of squints. And then off in the distance, like this vaguely bird-shaped thing. And then Rodan's like, and immediately flies after it.
They also do point out again in the commentary when they go find Kyle Chandler out in the wilds looking at wolves. They point out that his cabin happens to be the same one that Tony Stark owns in Endgame. So it was the exact same cabin. So they were like, that's some interesting crossover potential there.
Well, I've seen fan art, which I'm gonna send it to you guys right now. I've seen fan art of Godzilla, like this new American Warner Brothers owned iteration of Godzilla. I've seen fan art of that Godzilla versus Superman, which obviously Warner Brothers owns. So like I could well, I was gonna say I could actually see that happening in being pretty cool, especially if you did like the Henry Cavill Superman, because I think that seeing him go up against Godzilla, that would be pretty spectacular.
Godzilla versus the Justice League.
I think even just Superman, just keep it kind of simple. But although if you did throw in the Justice League, it's like, well, you'd have to make Godzilla even more powerful.
Throwing the rest of the Titans.
Oh, now you're talking.
Have like Godzilla breathing.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about that earlier when y'all were talking about the Titans. I was thinking, well, that could be a tie-in to a certain show.
Yeah, or maybe do as like giant monsters all out attack, but then throw every DC superhero in there. Just make it like the ultimate,
Or
the ultimate showdown of Ultimate Destiny.
Think of it this way. The Godzilla and the Kaiju monsters in the universe of the Clash of the Titans.
Ooh.
That could be fun.
Right there.
Yeah.
So, what is it after that we get the second round Godzilla and Ghidorah where he bites the Transformer, and then we get the Mothra and Rodan, or?
Oh well, after I just kind of wanted to comment on like the finishing blow for the Rodan Ghidorah fight, because like I kind of missed how nasty it was the first time I saw it, but Ghidorah is like stretching Rodan on the rack with two of his heads, and then he just like blasts the shit out of him with lightning from the middle head, and it's like I actually kind of winced, like ooh, because
rough.
I had sort of missed like how harsh that fight ends.
Oh yeah, that's just like.
Oh yeah.
I mean, though I have to say that first fight, I still say the first fight where Godzilla rips off Ghidorah's head is still the most harsh I saw.
Oh yeah, that happens immediately afterward when Godzilla shows up to fight Ghidorah after the Rodan fight. And Godzilla has him in the water, kind of like a crocodile, and he's just like rolling him. And Ghidorah has like it's not even really a fight. Like Ghidorah has no chance of surviving that, if not for the oxygen destroyer coming and screwing everything up.
Yeah,
but you know, like the fact, and of course, it leads to one of the most heartfelt scenes where Dr. Serizawa sacrifices himself, and it's kind of cool to be able to have that character set up in the first film a little bit more, because you kind of get to know him a little bit more, because they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna miss when that guy says let him fight. It's like, I don't know, I actually didn't see it the first time.
Well, and meanwhile, while this is going on, Madison, she's having kind of a mother-daughter kind of a disagreement, where she just goes off into the wild, and like her mother and father are trying to search for her.
Well, yeah, her mother just basically made herself to be like a mass murderer, so of course she's a slight bit upset about it.
Yeah, we kind of glossed over that, but that was a really good scene where they get the communication from the Monarch people, get the communication from the terrorists, and the person on the screen is the mother. It's not Charles Dance, as they probably had all thought it was going to be. It was Dr. Russell. The other Dr. Russell.
Exactly.
And she actually gives this really, again, very compelling argument, but very harsh. And then, of course, when it's over, they're all kind of like, ugh, and then, Zi Zhang does that line that apparently everyone loves, and that bitch. And then, but then you also see her side of it, and she's like fighting back tears at the end. So it was a really great acting job for her, I thought. But also it was just really great in that it is a compelling argument. It's a pretty horrible argument, but she makes it well. But you've also got her daughter standing there the whole time, kind of reevaluating her part of the whole thing.
This is why I think
it was a really well-produced. Yeah. It was a really well-produced terrorist broadcast, too. They had like a nicely edited video to go with it and everything. Yeah. It was top tier.
Well, they were in one of like the big Monarch facilities. You just
right.
Which one it was at the time. I do still say.
I just love the idea that during all this, there's a dude who was editing that clip. Like, this is gonna really drive it home. Sorry, bud. Go ahead.
We'll put the footage of Scylla here, and
it was a lost opportunity. They did not include these characters in the first Godzilla movie.
Yeah,
it would have been kind of cool, because I feel like you lost an investment potential for these characters by just introducing them like right now. It's like, yeah, okay, that happens. It's sort of like in Justice League, where they just introduce.
They just cobble it together.
In that one, where you're sitting there going, "Oh yeah, there's Batflick," and that's why he's upset, because they were destroying Metropolis. I see.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, though, isn't Millie Bobby Brown signed on for King Kong versus Godzilla too?
She is, yes.
I believe so.
They, what I understand, they've got her coming back, Kyle Chandler, Zi Zhang, and probably a couple of others.
I know you're on board if Zi Zhang is in there.
Oh, hell yeah.
Well, who wouldn't be? I mean, just put her in anything and she'll make it better.
Yeah, the IMDb page lists those three with their character names listed, and Zhang does list both characters by her name. And they've rumored Denai Guerrero's return. but it's apparently not confirmed. But it doesn't look like they've confirmed most of the others yet. I'd love to see. Y'all can tell me if I nodded off at an inopportune moment here, but did nothing happened to David Strathairn's character, did it?
I don't.
Or Bradley Whitford?
I don't match. I don't match names to those.
Yeah.
I can't match those names to
they're
faces.
not listed. They're not listed yet, but there's a lot of
were they in the movie?
Anyway, moving on to the next round of battles.
Right.
And so after that, after Godzilla is revived by Dr. Serizawa, we get our final battle, which is Godzilla and the military, later joined by Mothra and Rodan versus Ghidorah. Well, and Rodan.
So epic.
Well, we should probably mention the reason that there's a sacrifice is apparently the ship they're on no longer has the capacity for firing weapons. So he basically takes an armed nuke in a mini sub into where Godzilla is recovering, and then fires off the nuke but has that great little moment of like my old friend or whatever right before the bomb goes off.
I love it.
Yeah,
it
was so awkward watching that with my kid.
I was hoping somebody would cover that because that was a beautiful scene.
Right.
It was, and it was weird watching it with my kid trying to cover up that I'm like choking up at a Godzilla movie.
This movie had a lot of moving moments. It really did.
It's that scene where you're looking at it, and it's the same scene, really, as you get from the original Godzilla.
In a lot of ways.
Where you see Serizawa actually sacrifice himself. There's not as much. I really don't feel like it's a different type of passion to it, because the Serizawa is kind of a combination between both scientists. The one that wanted to study Godzilla versus the one that actually created the oxygen destroyer. I think there's like a combination.
About Yamain?
Yeah.
Our boy Yamain from Godzilla.
Yeah.
Because really and truly, that's how it is. I mean, you had like the people who, it's just he's more of that kind of god sacrifice, but does mirror the sacrifice that the real Serizawa made in the original.
It was a great melding of the characters and sort of like the parallel to it was awesome. If they ever bring Serizawa back in a future gen of Godzilla, though, they need to have a point where like they try to put him in a dive suit and he just refuses. Because track record shows when he puts on the dive suit, he's dead a couple minutes later.
I still say like they need to like go in there and say he belongs in a museum. Like
you and your museums.
Well, it's an Indiana Jones reference.
I know.
So wait, did that explosion look sweet when he set off that nuke too? Like, just looked nice. I don't know what about it. Maybe because it was like underwater, but not or something. I don't know. It was neat.
Right.
It's one of my favorite scenes of like a nuke going off in a movie. I think actually.
Yeah, and so while that's happening, we've got the young lady, the Madison, is gotten hold of Orca and taken it to Fenway Park, and she's using it to amplify the signal, I guess, and kind of all these titans all over the world that are responding to Ghidorah suddenly are confused and don't know what to do.
They stopped smashing stuff.
They stopped smashing, yes.
Ghidorah
but Hulk
and Godzilla
did not. Hulk was still
so.
smashing. But yeah.
Anyway,
well, and it sets them all up to converge on the final battle there at the end,
Yeah. And you do have that great moment in there where Ghidorah, of course, comes to Fenway as well and starts looking around. What's going on? And you have that moment where she sees him through the window and he sees her and she's like, oh.
And then you got to rev up that suspension of disbelief because she should have been dead like a half dozen times in the next 2 minutes of the movie.
Oh, yeah,
possibly.
That's like a real I'm screwed moment right there.
Right.
And I think that brings us right to where Dustin Yeah, I think that brings us right to that moment where Dustin was kicking off there, where like he shows up with the military in tow.
Right.
She turns around and like smiles because Godzilla's coming, to kick Ghidorah's ass or whatever.
Right.
And there's all
Actually,
those jets
I
in
love
formation and stuff.
I love this movie enough that I've read the novelization, and
Nice.
so during this scene in the novelization, her internal monologue is she sees the blue beam hit Ghidorah, and then she sees Godzilla coming, and her thoughts are like, "Yeah, come kick his ass." So you were right,
Smile
Mo. That
in
is
the movie
canon.
gives that up. That's great.
Well, I mean, as you get to the end, you get people like going, "Ooh, Godzilla, come on!" Or was that the first one? I can't remember. I watched the first one second. I remember in the first movie, you had all the people like really hoping, like really celebrating that Godzilla actually survived, almost dying at the end of his battle. I can't remember how it was for this one.
People were more in awe of Godzilla at the end of this one. Because like annoying
kaiju's like.
Because annoying dialogue guy is like, Jesus, glad he's on our side.
Oh yeah. Well, he's on nobody's side in the end.
His own.
And now I think this kicks off the fight that eventually leads to Mothra and Rodan getting involved.
Yeah, so Godzilla and Ghidorah have that really cool that charge at each other that Jake was talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And they have like a shockwave kind of come off of them, like crashing.
Oh yeah,
I thought that was cool too.
That badass sumo moment.
And it's kind of hard to describe. It's like, I don't know. It was just like a really thrilling battle. Like it felt very evenly pitched. Like there wasn't a moment where it's like, oh, so Ghidorah and Godzilla felt equal in power. Like you didn't think, Godzilla's just gonna show up and own Ghidorah, or like it was very. It was very
evenly stacked. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was some cool shit that happened in it before even the other monsters really got involved. Like I believe before Mothra and Rodan show up is the part where Ghidorah bites that transformer and is like channeling the electricity.
Sucks all the power out of the grid.
So like, there's a question for those
that
of
was
you who
really
are
fucking
Godzilla.
cool. That was my favorite moment.
It was.
In that
honestly,
scene.
yeah, that's my favorite moment.
Ghidorah just flares his wings out and just shoots lightning off its entire body.
Absolutely.
For you Godzilla experts, so now I know Godzilla, he works off of radiation. Does Ghidorah work more off of electricity, or
this Ghidorah does?
Yeah, it's never really expounded upon. He's just space dragon, dude. It's got 3 heads, wiggles around. Like that's kind of. Ghidorah's
that should be the tag. That should be the tagline for the next Ghidorah film. He's got 3 heads, wiggles around.
I was gonna say my other Godzilla discs on that big series are like stacked under a pile of rubble until I can actually get my whole thing back together. So I won't be able to look at those.
Well, Ghidorah's attack has always been called gravity beams. Like they're not electricity; they're like a weird kind of energy unique to Ghidorah.
Right.
But in this one, they went with lightning, which I think is almost cooler.
Yeah. He's got 3 heads. He's got 3 heads and he wiggles around. Sounds like a personal Zed.
I actually like the lightning attack, and I kind of like how they do it because it differentiates himself from all of the other monsters that feed off of radiation. I mean, if you think about it, because Ghidorah in this one is an otherworldly being, he is not like all the other Titans.
Right.
So it would actually make sense that he feeds off electricity.
Yeah, I thought that was super cool and creative. Like, not something I ever would have thought of with Ghidorah, but it makes total sense when you see it on the screen. I mean, and it just is a badass high point in the battle for sure.
Yeah, I had a friend turn to me and be like, could he do that before? And I was like, in the theater. But continue.
Oh no, I mean I just think it's awesome, and in another element about Ghidorah in this, because Ghidorah is kind of known for making a weird noise. If you watch the older Godzilla movies, you know he's got a very strange sound effect that they reused several times in Ultraman. But you know he didn't really have that in this, but he had there was a moment where his tail pops up and it's like a rattlesnake effect that it had, which honestly is way more sinister than the dopey science fiction sounds that he used to make. You know.
They did have a little bit of that noise when he's arriving to Fenway Park, but you know, I've seen this movie like 6 times and I never hear it. It's intentionally put in there, but I never hear it.
It's probably they're trying to do some subliminal thing with it, maybe. I don't know. I didn't notice it, but I'm going to be looking for it now for sure, because that'd be neat to one day, you know, pinpoint it. And then, you know, the way Mothra comes in and webs his heads to that skyscraper was sick. I don't know why I liked that so much. It probably the most realistic, well, obviously because it's a newer movie, but definitely one of the cooler ways that I've seen Mothra use webs. Usually he just shoots the shit out. Kind of.
I was gonna say, does he have the web attacks and the other ones that? I have not watched that many Godzilla movies overall.
Mothra doesn't have a whole lot of attacks.
Yeah.
That's basically Mothra's deal, is the webs in the old ones. You know, he cotton candies their ass, and yeah. So it was cool to see that. Yeah, pretty much. Sweaters beware.
Watching.
You know.
I've actually watched a lot of the ones that are on the set here, but have never gotten fully into the '90s versions yet. So I plan on.
Mothra can shoot rainbows from her eyes, but that's about all Mothra can. Mothra can shoot rainbows from her eyes. She has a poison powder
or something.
Yeah, she has a poison powder thing that she can do, but it kills her to do it.
Basically, she's Butterfree from Pokemon.
Pretty much, yes.
That's what I thought. Or the rainbow from the eyes will come in real handy when you're doing a pride parade, but you know, as an attack, I don't know about that, but
it's surprisingly destructive.
Well, I mean, I guess technically, a rainbow is a specific, spectrum of light, focused in a particular way. So if one were to, focus it.
So Mothra arrives, and they team on Ghidorah for a little bit. But then Rodan comes and kind of peels Mothra away. So, and eventually Mothra does beat Rodan and come back to support Godzilla, but she gets blasted by Ghidorah. And this
I love that moment too.
Yeah, this was one of the cooler moments. She blocks an attack for Godzilla and gets blown into dust, but the dust absorbs into Godzilla and starts to change him into Fire Godzilla.
Did you notice and I didn't notice it until I watched the special features. I didn't catch it when I was watching the movie. But there's a certain point when he gets up and there's a shockwave that comes off of him, and Mothra's wing patterns are in the shockwave.
And you can hear her cry too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I wish I had caught that when I was first watching it.
Is it a regular thing for Mothra to just sacrifice herself for Godzilla?
Oh, Mothra's always getting killed, dude. But there's always a Mothra egg.
Mothra Mothra sacrifices herself for a lot of different reasons in a lot of different movies.
Yeah, it's her thing, but she always leaves an egg behind when she knows she's going to go into some shit, I guess, because there's always another Mothra egg, and she just hatches. They very explicitly make a point to say, and I think the Mothra movie, her single movie, that she's undying, basically. She always revives, you know.
Yeah, there is and the credits of this movie have a big montage of newspaper articles about the Titans. And there's one about, giant insect egg discovered. Second Mothra?
Mm-hmm.
Which, those were fun.
Inevitably, some Japanese fella's going to try to make it the centerpiece of a theme park, because that just happens a lot in kaiju movies.
Mm-hmm.
Inadvisably so, but yes.
Well, let's try to bring this around to our favorites if we can, so...
Well, just wrapping up how
the actual last part of it, where Godzilla
wrapping
goes
up how that battle,
nuclear.
wrapping up how that battle ends. So they use the orca they fix the orca and use it to buy Godzilla a few minutes to get back up. And then we get a new form of Godzilla for this. It's kind of similar to Burning Godzilla from versus Destroya. Like Godzilla basically goes into meltdown mode after the power up from Mothra. And there was a really cool like build up to that where Godzilla's walking by things and they just burst into flames. Like, did anybody notice that little detail in the scenery? That's all we got.
Yeah.
Not really.
Oh,
You didn't
sorry, my
notice,
bad, dude.
like,
I muted
Godzilla-
my mic to cough, but I was talking actually
Oh.
again. I love that scene, man. Shit's all melting, and it's very sinister. You know that the movie's it's coming to a close right there because it's just immediately he's melting wrought iron and
Godzilla shows off his new nuclear pulse attack, which just kills the shit out of Ghidorah.
Yeah. It kills
I
the
loved
shit
how
out
he
of everything
stomped on
else
his
around
chest.
him.
Oh, definitely that girl's mom too. I mean, I just don't understand how there's any way she survived that.
Definitely dead.
Yeah, she's dead as their son.
Oh my
Basically, that chest stomp at the end is probably one of the most epic moments I've ever seen in a kaiju movie too. How he just basically crushes him while just melting him down. It's wow.
Yeah.
And that whole final bit afterwards too, with all the Titans coming around and like kneeling to him, and he gets that epic roar on that little hilltop. That's just good stuff.
Most definitely. That's how you I mean, shoot. That's how you know he's the true king of the monsters right there, Godzilla is.
Yeah, he might as well be holding it. I mean, that is like some wrestling shit almost too. He might as well be holding the championship belt up there, like.
I don't know if any of y'all have ever watched this before, but there is a Japanese wrestling league called Kaiju Combat, where they all dress up like as kaiju monsters and they do like traditional American style wrestling. It is really fun to watch.
That sounds pretty
How
cool.
have we
I
not
mean,
been repping that this whole time?
Yeah, I don't know. That might have to be its own episode, but
Yeah,
I mean, I know that
guy's like
the
a
end of
giant
every one of
green
these.
bean, and that's just like myself. I just think to myself, he's just like a giant green bean that's attacking people. That's just cool.
well, I mean, I know for a fact in Japan, with like let's say New Japan Pro Wrestling, like generally speaking, they on the one hand, like they have pro wrestling there, but they put more of an emphasis on the sportsmanship aspect of it, and it's still got the spectacle and everything, but it's more so about the actual performance. And they also go all the way with it, where like they'll do stuff that would never fly here in terms of like broken glass all over the ring.
Well,
and
right.
like
I mean, that's just in New Japan, bro. Like, you dive into the world of Japanese pro wrestling, it is an insane rabbit hole where guys are having wrestling matches with mops and fighting in arcades and using Hadokens as their special moves. It's glorious. So the kaiju thing is...
I think we need to get back on topic here. Looks like we're losing Forrest.
So why don't we talk about like special effects? We've talked about this in a general... But I think that special effects in this movie were pretty much top notch.
Spectacular.
I think that they learned
fucking best.
They learned a lot from the first one when they made in 2014, and they improved on the lighting effects using the ambient light and all the the various like luminescence that you could to show the monsters. It wasn't just like, where are they at? I can barely see them, like in 2014 Godzilla. And I really thought that they did a great job on animating these things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fully agree.
Definitely.
Like especially like the blast attacks and like the glowing lava blood on Rodan. Like it was all so great.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah, definitely.
Alrighty.
I mean, and the way they pulled off Godzilla with his
true
irradiated
Firebird
look
right
was badass.
Okay. It seems like Hey, Forrest, why don't you tell us your favorite scene before we let you go here?
Okay. For me, it was watching Fenway Park get destroyed. It's a baseball.
I had a
thing.
feeling that was gonna be it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What's Fenway Park? Ugh.
I mean, if you're like a Sox fan, then yeah, or if you're a Sox fan, you would hate the Fenway Park being destroyed.
Yeah.
But
And if you're
not
a
Sox
Yankees fan, you'd
Yeah.
be savoring their tears right there in the theater. So I imagine Forrest was enjoying himself.
Oh, of course.
What about in terms of like battle scenes? What was your favorite scene in terms of actual kaiju combat up in
Oh
the
God, probably Ghidorah getting his head getting one of his heads lopped off.
Yeah.
That was great.
That's freaking awesome.
I like that part where it looked like Godzilla was going to swallow it, but then he just like vaporized the head with the atomic breath or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I guess maybe not completely. So we got a couple scenes of that in the movie, actually.
I have a couple of favorite scenes. My first favorite scene would have to be where Mothra is first waking up from the cocoon that he was evidently in, and the first thing that happens to him is these motherfuckers just shoot at him, and I kept thinking to myself, like, well, what would I do if someone shot at me? You know?
Yeah.
when I just woke up, it would be like
Yeah.
you mothers. You know?
I haven't even had my coffee yet. You need to.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure webbing
and
fools to the wall is exactly the reaction you have.
And then,
Hell out of here.
For some reason, I was rooting for Mothra right there. I was like, kill those sons of bitches. You know?
You should always
So,
be rooting for Mothra, Dave. Okay, it's a rule.
I mean, for me, that scene where Dr. Serizawa sacrifices himself, I love the kind of cool, like, ancient Atlantean, like, civilization, you know, Godzilla worshipping type dealio. And it was just fun to see. I love the whole thing, and it was so emotional, and it had so much callback to the original. I just thought, this is just great, man.
Right.
Yeah, I would second that for sure, man. I mean, it's like, and then the goodbye old friend is such the perfect line right there, because especially if you're like a lifelong Godzilla fan, it's easy to put yourself in that position in the movie and kind of almost choke up like a bitch in front of your kid.
Yeah.
Who in the heck can actually get a chance to touch Godzilla, for that matter, and not be crushed by the dude? It's just,
and he saw him. There was recognition in his eyes a little bit there of like what was going on. I thought that was a cool touch to it, like how Godzilla groggily opens his eyes and sees him, and
as if noticing humans for the first time in
what, dude?
centuries.
I'm taking a nap, man. What do you want?
I'm actually here to just blow up your sweet ass house. That's what I'm doing. See you later, ancient civilization.
Right.
My second favorite is when you initially, of course, when you initially meet King Ghidorah, when he first awakens from his slumber, and you see him in all his majesty, and then he has such power flowing from him. I mean, it's not. It was more than I could have expected for King Ghidorah, and I was proud to have at least seen them capture him and do him justice.
Right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and toss mine out. I second or third at this point. The scene with Serizawa is probably my favorite. And I will say as well, as far as the battle scenes, the face-off between Godzilla and Ghidorah that we mentioned earlier, where it's just like this epic shot of like one on one side, one on the other. And it's like, you could almost hear the announcer. You know, we were talking about wrestling and whatever. You could almost hear the announcer, Sunday, Sunday, Sunday.
Yes, indeed.
Fight!
Exactly. Oh yeah, actually, like
You son of a bitch!
Yeah,
And in this
Ding,
corner,
ding.
wearing
Exactly.
however many tons, you know.
right.
Clean my
Yeah.
chicken coop. Make me.
I
But
think
that was pretty epic.
I think I liked the
Yeah.
bit with Jie Zhang kind of making the connection to the past lore with Mothra. You know, I think that was an unexpected moment, and I like that a lot.
She had some good role. She had a nice role in the movie of being sort of the historian, being the one who's connecting folklore to the
Almost
present,
definitely.
and I like
Well,
that whole.
and that's a pretty key aspect of Gojira. In addition to like the original film, as well as I'd say Godzilla as a whole, that and again, you see this with Japanese culture all over the place. The idea of trying to make sure that the old ways are preserved and that folklore is still valued despite technological advancements and trade with the outside world and that sort of thing. You see that all over the place in all kinds of Japanese films, and so it was nice to see that aspect of Godzilla being preserved here too.
Yeah.
What about you, Dustin? What's your favorite like human moment? What's your favorite
My favorite
combat
human moment?
Yeah, throw her out there. Why not?
That's actually kind of difficult to. Well, I mean, the scene with Dr. Serizawa is just so good. Like, it's hard not to want to go with that.
Right.
But
fair.
the stuff with the family is mostly pretty compelling too.
Mhm.
Like,
I'd agree.
I think I like the scene where Madison decides to steal the orca and take it to Fenway Park. Like,
yeah.
I like
That's
that.
a
That
good one.
is really great.
It shows how like determined and resourceful she can be.
Well, and I
Yeah.
liked that they saved that. Like it would have been very easy for them to make this an 11-centric fucking movie, you know, where let's just capitalize on the fact that this girl is this girl and let's make the movie centered entirely around her. And I was pleasantly surprised because that's kind of almost what I expected going in. And I was pleasantly surprised that she played, you know, sort of the role that a kid would play in other kaiju movies, where they're definitely there and prominent in the story, but it's maybe not entirely just centered around that kid. They've made some missteps in kaiju history where that's concerned. We're not going to talk about those. Point is, you know,
like all Gamera movies.
Oh, good lord. But, you know, they did a good job of, like, just having her be an element in the movie instead of the centerpiece of the movie because she was famous for some other shit, you know? And I thought that was really cool. So that's another favorite of mine, definitely. The moment we get there where she actually is the centerpiece of the movie for a sizable chunk of it, you know?
And again, a shout out to Vera Farmiga's villain monologue, because that was one of the great villain monologues in that
For sure.
she wasn't twirling her mustache. She was actually laying out a compelling position, which you don't always get in those kind of...
Well, if she
Yeah,
had
she
a
gave it to him
mustache
straight.
if she had a mustache to twirl, then that would be a different movie.
Well,
Pretty sure with digital
sadly,
editing, we can make it happen. So,
well, then we could rewatch this whenever we finally do Mustache Matinee. I don't know.
yeah, the mustache cut. That's everybody just has mustaches.
There
So
you
what
go.
was your favorite
So
combat
this is like
moment
the
there?
the what was it? The butt cut for cats? Was
No,
that
the butthole cut?
Yeah.
Need that in my life. So what was your favorite kaiju combat moment there, Dustin?
Well, again, it's kind of difficult because I just love all of it so much. But I think I'm gonna have to go with two moments. So the Ghidra shock pulse, where he just spreads his wings and fries everything, like all the planes fall out of the sky.
I love how it continues to rain planes for a bit afterwards too. Like
yeah. It's like, oof, fuck. Like you don't quite realize just how much damage he did with that one shot until like a little bit later. Like planes are falling on Godzilla for like 40 more seconds.
Yeah, it feels like a while. They held on it. They didn't just let it be like an instantaneous. Oh, cool, planes fell. It was
Like,
they really
all the
illustrated
humans
pretty well.
that were helping Godzilla died in that moment, and it was like, ooh.
Just smoked.
Hmm.
What would be your secondary one?
And my secondary one would be like the big finale where Godzilla melts Ghidorah with those nuclear pulses. Like, I sometimes just watch that clip because it's like, ooh,
insane.
It's like you've never seen Godzilla do anything like that before.
I mean, not like to that. We've seen him go like nuclear, and it was rad back then too. And I think that totally just epically did it justice of bringing that up to modern standards. Like, man,
We've never seen
it was
him
so cool.
We've never seen him graphically kill an enemy monster like that too.
Yeah, that was pretty rough.
Well, maybe a little bit with
Ghidorah.
Maybe a bit with Ghidorah, but not quite to that degree.
Yeah, he didn't nuclear melt down his ass and then stomp on his sternum until he died. That was pretty great. Yeah, I would perfectly echo those as favorite scenes for sure.
And then followed by like that credit sequence where we get the Serge Tanaki and Godzilla song, which is just perfect. Like, I listened to that on the treadmill.
It's good. Normally, honestly, as like a huge Blue Oyster Cult fan, I more often than not sort of roll my eyes at Godzilla covers, but that's one of the better ones for sure.
Just his voice, his voice is so good.
Always. And what we haven't mentioned here is the post-credit scene. You guys are all aware of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The post-credit scene is kind of odd because I'm not sure where it's going. The severed Ghidorah head has been found by the fishermen, and it's clearly dead. So we don't have to worry about Ghidorah coming back from it.
I don't know. Not from
Well,
that head, but DNA.
What about like Mecha Ghidorah?
Well,
I think that's where that's going.
Well, with Mecha Ghidorah, so Mecha King Ghidorah was built with most of the body of Ghidorah being intact. Like the robot part, the robot part was the one missing head and a lot of parts on the chest. I don't know what they're gonna do with it in reverse. You can't build a robot body for that.
Yeah, it's going to be 90% robot and just one little Ghidorah head? That'd be stupid. But I think, I think maybe, in my mind, thinking about it, they'll spawn like a clone of them, and then if they're, really trying to do this sort of Godzilla generation justice, they will eventually do Mecha Ghidorah with whatever happens to that clone that they make of him potentially. Or they could spawn the Dorats from the friggin' Ghidorah DNA, and then those could get combined. Maybe. That'd be a bit silly. But with the spin that they're putting on it with this stuff, it could actually be more serious than the one that I'm referring to. So there's possibilities. Ghidorah is still going to be in place somehow in the future, and that's good to know.
What I want to see is mites, like space mites, that live on Ghidorah. I want to see them mutate into Destroya from exposure to the oxygen destroyer. Yes. Like, I want little Destroyas to come out of that head at the end of, preferably at the beginning of Godzilla vs. Kong, and then they have to team up to beat Destroya. That's what I want to see.
Oh man, that'd be so sick.
And somebody will spawn them like Power Rangers.
Well, I guess that's a fun thing to throw out at the end here too. If
being said,
yeah, I need to get going. His is really late.
I was gonna say, with that being said, let's go.
Yeah, let's do outros.
Because it's like after one in our side. So,
I'm kind of fading too. Like, this movie is so good.
No worries,
like,
boys.
This movie is so good. It's so easy to just sit back and talk about it for ever. So see it. See Godzilla King of the Monsters 2019. Right. Do it. Yes. What are you waiting for? Fucking do it. Don't be like Brandon and put it off.
Lead us off, actually.
I approve this message.
Lead us off? Okay. Well, I'm Dustin. I'm a horror collector and student living here in Milwaukee. What? Oh, anyway, subscribe to my YouTube channel where I show my stuff off. The Crypt of Horrors. Subscribe to the Crypt of Horrors on YouTube. Follow the Crypt of Horrors on Instagram. And yeah, who's next?
I'm Dane Kyle, aka Dane Damarung on
Forrest,
YouTube. I'm
can I ask
on.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay.
Say it.
I don't know what's going on.
I don't know what happened either, but yeah, Dane Damarung on YouTube. On a YouTube channel called Indie Horror Film Creative, where I do a show called Blu-ray Views, and you can find me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. I'm also a filmmaker, executive producer of Axe 2 Grind, and associate producer of Air of the Witch, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And yeah, so just connect with me, and I'm gonna say goodnight to everyone because I'm dead tired.
All right. Night, Dave.
Night.
Well,
I keep trying to let Forrest go because he's been on here. So
Is he still on? I thought he signed off.
He left.
Yeah, he's gone.
He's
I
gone.
don't know.
It just it says 5 of 7 in the call. So
Actually, Dave, can you tell about Forrest so that he can?
well, Forrest is a YouTube reviewer under his name, I think.
Forrest Bennett or something like that.
Yeah, and I think he's got it under. I'm not too sure about his written stuff just yet, but he is a producer behind the new Camp Murder, which believe it or not, I have a screener of. So sometime, hopefully this week, I'll be able to watch it, get a review out and whatnot myself. But anyways, Forrest has joined us on 3 episodes, so thank you, Forrest, for coming on along on that journey for us. So
yeah, man, hope to have you on in the future.
Yeah. All right, and if it's all right, I want to go ahead and get going. I'm Kodabuki Jake. I am the co-star, co-host, what have you, Symptom Sin versus the World. And Brandon can definitely fill you in on all that fun stuff. I have my own nature-themed YouTube channel, Kodabuki Jake. Hub pages, also Kodabuki Jake. I don't get a lot of updates on either one, but they're there for your enjoyment. And once again, it was fun. Good night, everyone.
night.
Sleep well, sleep well, sweet prince.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Mo.
Oh, I'm Mosley. I ain't done shit lately. I don't produce anything, but I do occasionally watch movies and review them on my YouTube channel, Drunken Master Studios, where I post, somewhat frequently, usually never to the schedule that I announce.
Awesome
so
name.
just what's
You
that?
need to check out Kaiju Quarantine. That is just a freaking awesome name for that. I'm sad we missed out on that for Kaiju Combat. So you need to check out his channel for the Kaiju Quarantine.
Yeah, doing some fun stuff with that. Definitely more coming on there. I've actually been working on some stuff to try to launch in sort of conjunction with our final week of the Kaiju Combat year. So expect a hefty playlist of Godzilla and Gamera reviews coming on that in the future. And you know what, man? I'm going to just throw this out there to you guys on air. This should maybe be a yearly tradition, this Kaiju Combat or Quarantine, if you want to use that in the future. You can just go ahead. Spiritual brother type thing there.
Well, I think we should definitely put Godzilla 2014
We need more
on the agenda before the year ends.
What's that, Brandon?
I am Septum Sin versus the World. Of course, we talk about physical media. We've been kind of stalled because the weather has decided to totally destroy my studio, and many thousands of dollars and hours later, we will be restoring that to almost condition and to prevent mold from destroying the collection. That, of course, we're going to be on kind of pseudo hiatus. So I just want to let y'all know that we will be back in action soon. Where's all that sound coming from? Is there like something going on?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'll try. It's not me.
So with that being said, I also work with Inside Movies Galore, and even though I'm stalled in other areas, doesn't mean that I'm not going to try and work with on our free for all fall that is coming up, and we have some amazing stuff. So check out check them out on our amazing contributors at Amazing Collections Incorporated, Movie Collectors, Moe's Tavern, or Talk Movies with Us. Those are the Facebook pages we're affiliated with because they vote. Of course, if you have a Facebook page that you're like saying, hey, we would love to vote on Inside Movies Galore, give me that heads up, or give Dave that heads up, and we will add you to our voter count. But those are where mainly the voters are, unless you're a member of our crew, which of course you will be able to vote multiple times. So with that being said, I think we've got some cool stuff. It looks like the Goonies is actually like way ahead right now, but I'm sure there are others that are going to be really awesome as well. So next week we will be revealing that, but Kaiju Combat is not over yet.
Awesome.
With the original game, Shin Godzilla. Stay with us on Instagram.
Definitely. And my name is David Streggy. I am one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore, where we have been talking about kaiju films and kaiju combat. So definitely look out for the films that we'll be discussing next week that Brandon has told us about. And but I also moonlight under a different name with Delusions of Grandeur, where earlier we just went on about Cloverfield, which should be premiering on the channel shortly. So definitely check out that discussion. I also did a couple of reviews recently. Got some of those out. Some of the anime series that I planned on going on my own about. So check out some of those and look out, ladies and gentlemen. We are on the prowl. So next week we'll be stomping back into Kaiju territory. So stay tuned. Like, share, and subscribe, and say goodnight, everyone.
Take your vitamins.
Good night.